Hi there, I'm Dan Hollifield, and welcome to Last Man Standing. Tonight we have Bill with us, and we would have Mike Jimmy, but he is in the comments only because he has to go to work a half hour earlier in the morning than normal. So he can't join us tonight. Otherwise, he'd be tempted to stay awake all night like me and Bill. So, if you missed Last Man or Stupid O'Clock, we had a great night. We talked about fires, floods, explosions, and lots of other giant catfish. Now, if you wonder how all those fit together, you'll have to watch the replay of Stupid O'Clock. But these things they do happen occasionally. Is another one of the topics on Stupid O'Clock. The lightning strikes, and the little glass ball on the lightning rod melts away into no longer a little glass ball. Uh, Insulators only insulate while they're insulating. Oh Lord, that sounds like a ABBA song. Um,
Lightning strikes glass ball as giant catfish battle it out with baseball bats with mailboxes.
oh yeah, I forgot the baseball bats and mailboxes. Yes, that was another exciting topic we covered, and how to defend your mailbox against baseball bats. Turns out you got to be sneaky.
Sometime I'm going to have to create a meme based on previous episode of Stupid O'Clock, and I'll make a banner across the top called the Stupid O'Clock News, and and have all these headlines, which of course you can't actually read the text other than the headlines, and just kind of make it look like some big National Enquirer type thing or something, and then post it
Yeah,
one of these days.
just make of a name that we don't get sued. I mean, you can't use National Enquirer, you can't use Weekly World News.
Oh no, I already said I'm going to use Stupid O'Clock News, which is one of
And
ours anyway. When Lewis Lee used to do it
yep,
at the
yep.
beginning of the show.
Well, Lewis is busy working through his retirement now, making
Yeah,
making uh making a good living doing amazing stuff, really amazing stuff.
he he wished me a happy birthday on Tuesday and welcomed me into the sectionarian club.
Uh,
Boy, got to be careful about how you say that.
yeah, really. Actually, that wound up being a joke in a Thin Man movie. I think it was the
Mhm.
second one. But that's neither here nor there. But if you're here, you might be there. Who knows? We've got let's see, received the files for Oswald and Tall Tales last night. But now to get it to European sizes. Ooh, that's going to be well. I don't. I better you than me. Not to mention John Celestri and Jimmy had talk about Bloodwing Angel last night. Okay. Hey, keep us posted. We want to be able to keep up with this stuff. So,
I had to
as
go to
far
Walt. Oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead.
No,
Oh,
I just changed. Go ahead and finish.
I actually did a little bit of computer graphics work just to give me a grayscale printout of the artwork that I want to use for part of the cover painting that I want to do when I finish this next book. And I'm not quite sure exactly the base size needed for paperback cover art. At the moment, I am looking at if I can find a canvas that is or can be used as a 11 by 17 I'll do a complete front cover, spine, back cover
Mm,
as an oil painting, and I need to find a couple of more images that I'm going to use for distant background stuff. But I've got the close up of the two main characters for the front cover. And now the thing is, I've got to size this correctly so that there's room for the title and byline and the publisher's name and
mhm.
whatever other information has to go on the front cover. And then the back cover will be real easy. It'll just be landscape with maybe a building or so, and then room for back cover blurb and ISBN numbers and whatnot, and barcodes and stuff that can be just popped in without damaging the image whatsoever. But I'm really looking forward to doing this oil painting because I haven't done an oil painting in a long time.
Well, that's what I'm starting to say. I went to Walmart today and I saw some stuff in the clearance aisle, a bunch of oil paints and that, and it made me think about you getting ready to. I didn't know when you were going to start that painting or
Well,
not. If you were going to finish the book first and then do the painting, or whatever.
I plan to finish the book first and then do the painting.
Hmm.
Now the book is coming along pretty well. Yeah. It's probably three quarters of the way finished. I've got to get the heroes to the bad guys' stronghold and do a at least one final throwdown, big bad boss fight, and rescue the damsel in distress and send everybody um, who survives home again happily ever after. And once that's done, then I can concentrate on the oil painting, which, knowing me, um, it should, if I get uninterrupted by domestic emergency time to paint, uh, a week, maybe 3 weeks at the outside. It's not going to be wall size mural. It's going to be, just a large size of printer paper sort of thing, but it's going to be on a canvas. And I'll I don't know exactly what to do about the book spine area. I think I'm not going to put the actual graphics, title, all the other crap in there. I'm just going to make allowances in the actual painting for these things to take place.
Is it
So
going to be a wraparound?
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
front cover, spine, back cover. But it'll all just be one image, and however much the publisher needs to get the complete thing, he'll be able to do the spine. He'll be able to do the text on the front
Hmm.
cover. He'll be able to do the back cover blurb and all the other little inserts that go on the back covers. So the barcode space and ISBN numbers and all this other, uh,
Hmm.
you know, um, and if it works, I'll have if it's good enough to where he decides that he wants to use it for the cover, then I'll have cover artist credit for that as well as writer's credit for it. Now there's already a book that I've sent to him that is finished and very highly edited, but it probably could use another pass by the folks at the publisher just to make sure I didn't miss anything or any of the other people that helped me edit it missed anything because you always miss something.
Hmm.
Anyway, I've got a computer generated artwork just computer graphics that I did for that. That would give me yet another cover artist credit. Now, I'm not trying to set myself up as a cover artist. I'm too busy trying to write stuff. This is just, you know, I've got an idea. I did this other the one that's already been turned in, already finished. I did that a long time ago, and I just kind of extended it to the spine and back cover area, and it's real simple. It was all in the computer. I'm very proud of that piece of artwork. Being, I'm not a highly qualified computer graphic artist. I'm pretty good with a paintbrush, but using a mouse, that's that's a whole different skill right there. Um,
Depends on how fluffy the mouse's tail is.
Depends on how you pet it.
Yeah. Well, I I got approached today. I posted for my sketch today. I've been doing a lot of the comic strip
Hmm.
stuff lately, and so today I thought, yeah, let's post one of the old Batman ones. And
Hmm.
then I got approached by one of the followers asking me what I would charge to do a sketch in inks, just like the one I did today, but in 11 by 14, Batman and the Batmobile and the bat signal in the air behind him and all this stuff. So I thought about it, and as far as a lot of it determines detail and time.
Yep.
And so I shot him a price and said payable through PayPal. Once I get the payment, I start on the commission. And of course, I keep the people in the loop the whole time
Yep.
while I'm doing the commission. Sometimes I'll start off with a kind of a rough draft of what I think um, that they want, and then I will show them that draft because they're, it's my envision of it, but they're the ones paying for it. So
Yeah.
and and most of the time things worked out. Oh, that's fine. I like it. And but a couple times I had somebody say, well, can you do this or can you tweak this a little bit or whatever? And constructive criticism I welcome.
Mm.
So and then I change it up and show them the redone draft, and usually from that point on it's fine. And then I go ahead, and once I start the inks and everything that's involved, then that's it's a done deal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I used to ask for half pay down at the beginning, and then the rest when it was done. And anymore, it's just let's just do it and get it done. And since I do keep people in the loop, they don't have any problems paying for it first. And it's like anything else, um, when you're going to buy the groceries, they kind of want you to pay for them before you take them home. So
Yeah,
I
really,
thought,
it's not half down when you get to the cash register, and the other half once you get everything loaded in the car.
yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta you gotta
you're
pay for
not buying a car
the whole
on
buggy.
a
Yeah,
5 year plan there, but
as Robert Heinlein once said, strictly cash on the counter paying.
mm,
Now, if you
and
know that quote, you remember exactly what book it was from. Now, Mike Jimmy says. as long as your original is a bigger size than the final result, you should be able to move the image around to suit your printer's needs without too many issues. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. Um, uh, Basically, the the wraparound has to be the right proportion so that the publisher can um, enlarge or shrink. But usually, in the case of a painting for cover art, shrink is the operative word, and crop anything off of one side or another that would be uh, overlapping the actual pattern for the book cover that they have to work within. As long as I can get the front cover within the pattern, the spine and the back cover, it's that's up to them. As much of the to the left that they need to crop off, that's fine. I don't care. It's I'm gonna try and put everything uh, that I think is vital on the front, and then kind of half bleed around, and then trailing edge off to the left hand side where it can be cropped off as if needed, and get everything the right size that they need, and then shrink to fit.
I think if you reference some of the old Frazetta wraparound covers for the John Carter from Mars
Hmm.
books, or Deja Thoris, uh, what was it? Made a, oh, can't think of that one now. I had it on the tip of my tongue.
Princess of Mars.
Princess of Mars, thank you.
Hmm.
And his the most part of what's going on the cover is on the front cover,
Yeah, it's
and
over on the right hand side,
over on the right hand side.
and
Then
things kind of
everything
fade.
else, yeah. So you might on the left hand side on the back cover, you might see some different mountain ranges in the back, or
Hmm.
different planets or something like that going on off to one corner, but it's not really anything quite as
Yeah, it's
busy as the front cover.
yeah, it's stuff that can be covered up by text, or as Carl was doing for some of Michaela's covers, put a lighter a box with a certain percentage transparency on there, so that
Mm,
the text in the box, uh, while being perfectly readable, doesn't totally obscure the background image for the back cover, but it
mhm.
certainly it's not like the full image there with somebody trying to figure out what color of print would show
Yeah,
up
a
best.
lot of times
Uh,
it's hard to do that. You got, even if you use a bolder stroke around the lettering.
mhm.
I mean, unless you have the lettering in white or something really.
That's
Um,
why I'm trying to plan around the
mm,
lettering and just leave stuff that is not vital to the image, to where lettering can be put in graphically
mhm.
once the painting gets scanned. That way, it's the least problem for them. It's not like I'm painting all the lettering in, and this is the way it has to be. So suffer. No, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not egotistical enough to do that. I'm going to go.
Hmm.
Here's the image. This is the important part over here on the right side. Y'all do with the top and the middle and the left exactly what you need to do, and I will not raise a fuss whatsoever. There's not going to be
Well,
vital information painting wise on the back cover. I might
I've
put a couple
always
of indents in
wished
there, but
I always wish that on some of these wraparound dust covers on the hardback books, um, that yes, on the outside you have the title and your
Mm-hmm.
what is it called again? IB, the number,
ISBN, ISBN
ISBN.
number.
Thank you.
Yep. And the
That
barcode and all this other
and
crap.
the
Yeah.
barcode, UPC, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's all fine on the outside, but it's the dust cover is a two-sided cover, so that actually on the back side of the cover is the same artwork minus any of the text or any of the
Mm-hmm.
numbers or anything like that, that a person that after of course purchasing the book, they can use it one way or the other, or actually
Mm-hmm.
even remove the dust cover altogether, and then they have a little,
Have a
whatever
little
size it
poster.
would be, little
Yeah.
poster that's
Yeah.
suitable for framing.
Yeah. I used to. I've talked to a couple of professional cover artists at a convention. I actually, I by coincidence, there was one of my favorite cover artists going to be at the convention, and I took my favorite book cover that he did. I took the paperback of the favorite book he did the cover for, and he actually had the painting for the front cover. Now he didn't do a wraparound. He did the
Mm,
front cover, and then the publisher did. I think it was a black with white text, and the spine was black with white text.
mm,
But I saw the original painting for the cover art. It was like 11 by 17 vertical,
mm-hmm.
and it's
Yep.
just I I I knew every brushstroke on that thing. I had never seen it larger than a standard paperback book cover. And here's the whole thing, and I'm going, "Oh, that is so awesome!" And I got him to sign the inside of the paperback book cover.
Oh, okay.
I've never met the writer to get the writer to sign it as well, but
Mm.
if the gentleman is still with us, I will eventually be lucky enough to get that autograph as well. But it was just I was walking through the art show. I'd already got the book autographed. I was walking through the art show, and there it was, his original painting, and I'm going, that is so cool. It really was. It really was. It really was.
Well, I think if I ever write a book, Dan, I'll show you what my cover is going to be here if I can do this for a minute. There you go, right there. And I'll tell you what. Now I got this at Walmart for $4. They had it with all their Independence Day T-shirts and stuff. And I don't remember seeing this shirt there uh, back then, a couple weeks ago. But they had one that had the letters that said red,
Mhm.
white, and blue or something like that on it. But this one reminds me so much. And actually, I might be able to put it in the stupid o'clock
Oh, please do,
messenger
please,
link.
if you could find it, yeah. Um,
Um,
and I'll do my best to try and remember how to get it to show up. Oh, good grief! What has happened to my capacity? We've gone through an entire show, and I am being total a total wimp as far as my consumption is concerned.
oh boy.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I had to
really.
get some water. I was trying to tell you backstage, and I didn't know if you were in there yet or not.
Oh,
I was switching from Mexican Coke to spring water, but okay. So in the Facebook Messenger, I put a picture in there of what this design on my T-shirt reminded me of, and talk about the vintagey thing because I mean, although the red, white, and blue stuff that's in this could be construed as something, you know, Fourth of July, but it reminded me more of the full page and sometimes two-page advertisements that the Roach Design iron-on transfers had
Hmm.
in the comic books back in the 70s
Oh
and I
yeah,
think
yeah.
through early 80s. And I found one in there, and I put, and if you find it in there, you can put it on there, and it would actually kind of get my point across a little bit. And that was really the only well, I mean, cheap enough. Where can you buy a $4 T-shirt anymore, regardless of anything on it or not? But this one, as soon as I saw this on a four-way rack, uh,
Yeah.
that was the first thought in my mind was
Let,
those iron-on
let's see if
transfers.
let's see if it works. I mean that's as big as I can make it. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay, okay, yeah. It when something vertical is, it's hard to put it in landscape mode to enlarge it. But yeah, for those, they can either I don't enlarge it on their end or get up in there and
Hey,
but yeah, some of the designs on all those t-shirts and that and I never did order any of those when I was a kid. I don't know why. I always had favorite ones. I remember they did Sergeant Pepper, the bass drum logo
hmm,
from the front cover was actually, and you think of anything Beatle related being anywhere and something like that would be next to nil, but at one point in time that was available. And
um, uh, uh,
always all the Marvel, Spider-Man, Captain America, Incredible Hulk. They had
yeah.
I think even Thor designs of all the classic ones that you could get. And then I think eventually they went into actually just selling the T-shirts with them on them
Hmm.
because I remember it saying something to the effect of the size of the shirt. And I think they were always white T-shirts. I don't think it back then you got your had a choice of colors for the T-shirts,
No,
but
back then, T-shirts were white. If you wanted
mm,
colors, you didn't want something printed on it because it didn't show up well because printing
right.
on different color T-shirts was not a fully fledged art yet. Just on the going back to what you were talking about the Beatles, do you remember what year the uh, the the Beatles cartoon came on over here in the US?
1965 season, I believe.
65, was it that?
Yeah, and they actually did it through, I want to say 67 or 68, because it seemed like they ended that and it wasn't a great amount of time before Yellow Submarine came out.
Mhm. And the artwork was not Yellow Submarine had totally different art style, more Peter Max influenced
Right,
than the
right.
than the cartoon, but it's still there were there you could have thought they were crossovers between the characters design of before they get to the uh, Sergeant Pepper Yellow Submarine style of representation of the different Beatles back
Okay.
when they were the
Mhm.
guys in suits sort of thing that would
Right.
cross over with the cartoon. But
Yeah, because they were always wearing suits and all had the Beatle haircut still. They didn't, like, even like I said, I believe it went through 67 or 68.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't show John with the little round granny glasses and the mustache or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were always kind of 1964, 65 looking. Now the
They were always
animators,
classic Beatles. Yes.
right, the animators that did the Beatles cartoon, and even to some degree the voice actors, were a lot of the same voice actors and definitely the same animators that did the commercials for Quisp cereal,
Quisp and
uh,
Quake.
Quisp and Quake, Captain Crunch.
Mm-hmm.
They were the animators that did Dudley Do Right
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
all that.
That was
That
that
was
was
it. Was that type of animation, that type of humor. And of course, the only thing being different in the Beatles cartoons were you got to hear a Beatles song, and just like Yellow Submarine, no, the Beatles did not do their own voices. I remember
they were a bit busy doing other things.
well, it was said one time George was talking. I can't remember. It might have been on Dick Cavett show when he was on in '71, and he was on like just a month or so after John and Yoko had their first appearance on there, and they were talking about Yellow Submarine, and he says, "Yeah," he goes, "they always said that if we did our own voiceovers, that people would not be able to understand us because of our accents." And they all kind of laughed about it because it's like, well, they understood.
Yeah.
You even at the beginning, uh, of seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan or something like that, and that if some of the people thought, man, the Liverpudlian accents are a little hard to get used to, the kids got used to it because
Yeah.
they wanted to. It was the Beatles, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Well, um, I had an online friend who was from Liverpool, and he actually telephoned me out of the blue one night, and I wasn't one the one I wasn't the one that answered the phone, but he just about got hung up on until I realized it was him because I had a caller ID
Mhm.
at my computer, and then the phone was answered in the living room by somebody else, and he was asking for Don, and basically by the time I picked up the phone, I knew exactly who it was and I could understand him perfectly. But the, the other person in the house could not understand Scouser accent at all. And I'm going, hey, it's real. I've got it.
Mhm.
Hang up. I've got it. And everything went fine from there.
Yeah, I had an issue today. I was calling Walgreens to set up for my second booster shot, and I don't know how much good that's going to do or not, because
Mm.
now we're seeing people. Well, our governor's got COVID. He's had both of his shots and
Mhm.
uh, both boosters. And then, of course, now we just recently learned that Biden has COVID and is at home for, well, now they say 5 days. It used to be 7. And before that, it was 10. But, um, but anyway, I thought I'm going to do it. For
Yeah.
one, to get it out of the way, and the other because I am around some older people. Once again, I'm not worried about myself. I don't think I'll ever get it, and if I do, it'll probably be so minimal I won't even know it's that. With all the other problems I have, it's like it's not going to rear its ugly head above my other problems, but
Mhm.
just because I'm, like around Laura's 87-year-old dad, and the a lot of the people that we see at the auction, and then there's some elderly people that live around me, so I thought, well, I'll do it for that reason. And so I got on the phone to schedule an appointment because you can't just walk in and get one. And the lady with the answering service I know was overseas somewhere,
Mm.
um, probably off the mainland to China or Thailand or somewhere. I was having a problem understanding the accent.
Yeah.
She didn't speak very clear English, but even more, she was having some major headset problems.
Oh, yes.
And I kept talking to her about it. So that was compounding the problems we were already having with communication.
Yeah, with the accent. Yeah.
And
Um,
it took me about 20 minutes to get through to get everything set up. And then I said, is there a confirmation code or anything like that that I can have to prove that the appointment is set up? Yes, there is. And she proceeded to give me what was I think it was a 15 or 16 letter confirmation code with one numeral about halfway through it. And she was saying, you know, W for wall, B for a boy. But between the headset problems and her accent, and it just, I had to have her repeat everything she said a couple times over. And
that took a while.
it took quite a while. Um, I had to go to Walgreens for something else today, so I said, "Well, I just spent more time than I cared to admit trying to get an appointment set up for the end of the month, and you know, I have this confirmation code that I think is correct, is and I know I have to bring my COVID card, but do I have to bring this?" And then after all the trouble I went through, she said, "Oh no, they'll send us the same confirmation code."
Hmm.
I I said, "Hopefully not by voice,"
Yeah.
but
Yep. Little did you know that um, she was speaking Welsh and not
yeah,
English. So, yeah,
and she wasn't a
27
rabbit either.
consonants and a number. Um, no, not a rabbit. Yes, or a rarebit. Yeah. Um,
Ribbit,
mm,
not a ribbit either.
yes, I get all of those references. And I'm sure our audience is going to go, "What are you going on about?" Hey, if you didn't grow up watching cartoons when they were transitioning from black and white to color, you might have a problem.
And right about now, Mike Jimmy's saying, "I think it's time to go to work."
Well, yeah. He's. Uh, I'm not sure of the time difference. It's either 5 hours ahead of us or 6 hours ahead of us.
I know he
He,
told us once, but I've slept since then.
he's a little further east than I'm used to. My in-laws and friends in England. So it it depends on whether he's one time zone ahead of England or
Yeah.
two. I think
Well,
it's just one. So it could be it could be 6 hours, but then daylight savings time rears its ugly head, and it could be last Thursday for all I know. Um, time zones across the world can really kind of boggle the mind when you're trying to translate to this, that, and the other thing. We have
and
enough trouble.
meantime, it's if you're going by Greenwich Mean Time, you're still watching Neil Armstrong and Buzz up there playing golf on the moon.
Yeah, that is some really mean time there. You got a loop or something going, or at least a sidestep. I have enough trouble keeping track of If Lindsay's youngest daughter or Lindsay's son out near Albuquerque calls us, they're 2 hours behind us. And if I'm talking to somebody in England or Germany, they're either 5 hours or 7 hours ahead of us. Or if I'm talking to somebody in Australia, it's a week ago. Um, I used to have the the world clock where I could pull it up and I had different time zones of people that I
Mm-hmm.
would most likely be talking to at the time, and it would give me the California, New Mexico, England, Australia, and I could pretty much go, okay, he's in New Zealand, so it's maybe an hour earlier than Australia. They're in da 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 da. And I can make adjustments in my head, but you only had so many entries you could put on that one page. So like four different time zones you could keep track of, but it was all across the world. It was a useful tool, a useful tool.
Yeah,
I
Dad
don't
had
know.
one of those because he was a ham radio operator,
Hmm.
and his little Saturday night talks did involve some people from other countries.
Mm-hmm. Um, Once a month, I am in, we might as well call it international chat with some fans for a writer we all dearly love his work, and occasionally he gets to join us himself. And some of us are, well, we're most of us are scattered all across the U.S., but then
Mm,
some are in England, some are in Central Europe, some are in um, Australia or New Zealand, or Australia and New Zealand. Actually, that's closer to the fact. Yeah, Australia and New Zealand. And I don't know if anybody's ever showed up from a ship at sea in the middle of the Pacific, Easter Island time, whatever that one is. But we get used to different time zones, and there's a bot in the channel that you can, if you remember how to phrase the question, it will tell you what time it is in each of the different time zones that the people you're talking with are in. But you got to remember how to ask the question because there's a specific format. Other than that, the bot will not respond
hmm
sensibly. It just go, that does not compute, basically, um, or some variation of that. Oh, still, the world clock is a useful tool. It really is. You can look at a lot of different information on there, and you can save at least four different specific areas that it'll clue you in uh,
hmm
all over all around the world. Yeah, forget whatever that song was. Um, all around the world, rock and roll is here to stay. Yes, I do remember what that song was. Took me a minute.
Was was that ELO
I
or
think it was
who?
earlier. I think it's way earlier than ELO. It sounded like it
Oh,
was.
okay. I'm thinking of a different song then. And earlier you were talking about Albuquerque, and it immediately put to mind of the Partridge Family song "Point Me in the Direction of Albuquerque,"
Mm, just
which
don't
was
take the left
actually a
turn.
very good song. It was, they, like the Monkees in the beginning. The Partridge Family had some really good writers uh,
Yes, yes, they did. Yes, they did.
on there. And I do have, if I could steer this musical conversation to records, um, I do have a couple of my old Partridge Family albums, and I even still have my copy of Cherish, David Cassidy's cover of the
Mhm.
famous Association song "Cherish," which, believe it or not, I always liked his version better because it kind of has a crescendo at the end of the song where the Association kind of has it going down,
Mhm.
and David Cassidy is, like I
Bringing it
said,
up.
it's building up to a big finale, and had the original single cover with that as well. Um, it was, I was one of the few guys that like the Partridge Family and David Cassidy and all that, and of course my friends from grade school and high school, and they'd see things like, "Oh, do you want to sell that 45 with that picture sleeve, or do you want to sell that album, or But oh, I got to tell you
Mhm.
of a eBay purchase that I made, and it should be arriving early next week. I found an original 45 of My Sweet Lord with the B side being "Isn't It a Pity" by
Mhm.
George Harrison on Apple label with the original picture sleeve.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
And that was one of the many reasons why I went to Wally World today, because I normally don't like going there,
Had to
but
go and get the had to go and get the frame to be able to
had to
display
get
it.
the 8x8 frame. I actually have it sitting back there behind the TV,
Waiting for the delivery.
waiting for that. And because I have up on the wall over there is my ones, well, right above my bed, I got the big double Wings Over America, the gatefold one in the
Mhm.
big double album frame. And just to the left of that, I have the, down toward the bottom, my Monkey shadow box with my Michael Nesmith and Peter Tork signatures in that. But my 8x8 frames that I have my three Beatle picture sleeves, I got Yesterday and Act Naturally at the top, and then below that, Paperback Writer and Rain, and then to the right of that, I Feel Fine and She's a Woman. But there's a big empty spot right above the I Feel Fine one.
Not
And
for
I thought,
long.
not for long. And I thought about getting another Beatles one because there are some of those available,
Mhm.
fairly decent prices. If you want to get one with a decent picture sleeve and the 45 as well. But it's, you know, I thought, oh, I want to, George is one of my favorite Beatles. He's the most religious, spiritual one.
Yes,
Uh,
he's
and
one of my 5 favorite Beatles as well.
yeah, and well, and it's another reason why All Things Must Pass is my favorite album. And
Well,
and, and
I was counting Billy Preston, but I really ought to include Pete Best as well. So the
yeah,
one
Pete
of my
Best.
6
And
one of my 6 favorites. Yes.
well, let's make it seven and add Stu Sutcliffe,
Oh,
even though
wow.
even
Yes,
though he
thank
died
you.
of a brain hemorrhage. But
Hey,
he,
still.
well, he was dating Astrid Kircher, who was responsible for their haircut. You know,
Yeah.
he was Stu Sutcliffe was the first one to model that famous Beatles haircut, and then they thought, oh, it was going to be kind of kooky looking, because they all had the greasy kid stuff on their hair back in
Yeah.
the with the
They
DAs and the
they had
ducktails and
they had the 50s style haircuts, and all
mhm,
of a
yeah,
sudden, yeah.
still dressed in the leathers and
Mhm.
all that, pre Brian Epstein days. But yeah, Stu, he modeled it, and John, being his best friend, says, "Yeah, let's do this,"
There was
and
a
then
there was one of the writers for Aphelion way back in the day did a story. It was a sideways in time story, and it was either Stu or Pete was the main character,
Hmm.
and it was, I think the plot was, how would things be different if that person never left the group? And there was a, oh, it was a long story. It was serialized.
Hmm.
It took up 6 or 7 months worth of fairly good sized chunks of story. Very, very good, very good. I wish I could remember the name of the writer. Now, I'd love to plug his work because this is one of the things that it, it it struck me enough that I remember the story even now, and it's been 25 years.
Hmm.
So, you know,
Well, as any good Beatle fan would know, I mean, Stu Sutcliffe was not a good musician. He would they had him playing bass guitar before Paul did. Because if you look at a lot of the earlier stuff with them from Quarrymen days all the way up through Cavern Club days,
hmm
um, Paul was playing a regular guitar. He and Stu would always have his back turned towards the audience because he played so badly, but he looked good. Stu arguably was the best looking Beatle of the group, even better looking than Paul because he had that James Dean look
hmm
and um, and of course, sadly, as everybody knows, he though he never complained of headaches, he had a brain hemorrhage and just collapsed on the floor in front of Astrid and died right there.
yeah,
Probably before he hit the floor, he was probably dead. And of course, that almost was the end of the Beatles before the beginning of the Beatles. I mean, they were kind of the silver Beatles at the time, but that could have been the end of them, especially with John, because John was, John and Stu went to art school get together, and they were mates, and more so than John was with Paul at the time, and so he was tragically affected by that, and then of course uh, tragedy would happen again for John when his mother Julia was hit by a drunk driver,
hmm
and so anyway, yeah, it was really bad, and I actually my since this is the late show, um, um, my first, and I'm sure I told you this before, but my first girlfriend that I had, uh, high school days, she died the same way Stu did, and and like and like Stu, never complained about headaches or anything. Very very much the opposite. And Gwen was, you know. It was a tragic event, and I'm thinking, wow, what they went through um, back then. That yeah, it could have halted anything and everything
yeah, really,
from the Beatles leaving Liverpool and not doing anything. But as it was, um, that would not meant to be, and thankfully, and of course, unfortunately, Pete Best was not meant to be either, on that. And
well,
I know he
um,
was a decent drummer, and a lot of people kind of say, "Oh, Ringo wasn't a good drummer." Ringo was a good drummer, but Ringo was simplistic with a lot of the things that he did with that, because Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, the group that they got him from, I mean, they were bigger than the Beatles at the time
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they acquired him. The Beatles were on the rise on the other side of the pond, but you know, Rory Storm and the Hurricanes were actually quite settled in, and they had already made a name for themselves quite some
Well,
time before that.
if you watch Ringo even today, um, he's it's very he does a lot with very little motion.
Mm.
It I hate to call it minimalist, and it's definitely not simplistic, but he knows exactly what to do and how much effort it takes to do it, and he's sitting back there and he you know it I shouldn't have said because that's a really bugger all term, but he
I have problems with that.
yep he is so good that doing what he does, if you just watch, makes it look easy. And you find that with a lot of really, really good musicians. They make it look simple, but if you actually try yourself, you find out how complicated it
Mm.
gets and how difficult it is to develop the reflexes as well as the skills to be able to carry it off that well and make it look easy.
Now, I'm on the other side of the coin on that because my favorite drummer and favorite bass player both come from the Who. Keith Moon the Loon, and of course the Ox himself,
Oh,
John
hey,
Entwistle.
I have well studied both of them. Yes, Keith Moon was described as that sloppy drummer, and still, I mean, he put a lot of energy into doing the right thing at the right time while he was playing,
He could
and
he could take four beats that were required from him for a portion of the song and end up making it 16, 18 beats.
hmm
And yes, he looked real sloppy. He looked like a drunk, you know, tripping over a couple garbage cans, you know, and he's going every
as you
which way.
do when you are, yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
and but he, you know,
yeah,
and
and
then Entwistle. I mean, Entwistle, the fingers.
John is just a freaking legend. Not only did he know when to hit the notes, he knew when to not hit the notes.
Mm,
He not only played the notes, but he played the silences just as
well,
well.
and he was a lead bass player because of the
Yes.
fact that you had a four-piece band, but technically, Daltrey, uh, who was one of two of the lead singers, uh, didn't really play instruments in that. Now, you could argue the fact that, oh yes, if you look at the video of Eminence Front, there's Roger, obviously just playing rhythm, dun dun
hmm
dun dun, that part. Yeah, I'm sure he did, and maybe he did on rec- during recording sessions of this and that. But typically, you know, uh, the instrument that he played was the microphone that he wielded and swung around every which way,
Yep.
and
And
how he never knocked out Entwistle or Pete Townshend, I don't know, because he comes so damn close to him on
hmm
numerous occasions, especially Pete Townshend, the way he was hopping around all the time.
oh yeah, the Morning Star assault microphone. Yes.
Yeah, and but
They joked that his job was to twirl the microphone by its cord fast enough to where when people were throwing vegetables at the band on stage, the band got a free salad.
Yeah. Well, and it kept the rowdies at bay too.
Yeah,
You
really, because
got there. I
he
mean,
could reach out with that cord and smack somebody, and those microphones were not lightweight. You
but
could do some
but
damage with one of those, but
but technically, you had three musicians in the band, and and obviously, although Pete Townsend played lead guitar, he wasn't. He had to play rhythm a part of the time too. So you had Entwistle playing lead bass at that time.
hmm
Entwistle is when he's not playing lead bass, he's still playing rhythm bass along with his in order for Townsend to do his thing. Whether he's sitting there doing windmill swings with guitar or just doing something intricate with it, but it it's the way they all meshed together, and it literally was Moon who kept all of it together, even including Roger Daltrey's vocals,
hmm
and which was as important as the rest of it.
there are
And
some YouTube videos out there, not many, that actually show in whistle and blank out everybody else's stuff and just have the
yeah,
audio of the bass part, the isolated bass part,
isolated bass. Yep.
and he will stand there
And
and
and that
and just be standing there, not doing anything, and
mm,
then all of a sudden, brum, 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 and then stand there. He'll play something that is absolutely vital to the piece of music, and then step back and wait for the next time, and then jump in, do his bit, and then stand there. I mean, like I said, the man could not only play the notes, but he could play the silences. He knew the importance of
well,
a rest as a musical note.
I think I might have mentioned this to you before, but I wish. Oh, hang on a minute. Sorry about that. That
Had to wet your in whistle.
well, the my favorite uh, little Lindt chocolates. They're milk chocolate, but they have sea salt right in the center of it, which
hmm
is the perfect salty sweetness combination. But it went down the wrong pipe.
I, you'd be amazed. I have learned that when I'm walking from the break room to my lab, I should not be trying to drink my coffee at the
Yeah.
same time I'm trying to breathe and walk, because evidently I can do two things at once, but not three.
Well, I'm surprised I can do one thing, but no. What I started to say before I went into my Joe Dog call for there. Um, I wished that they had YouTube and the ability to watch those videos with the isolated bass from Entwistle or drumming or
Oh yeah, yeah.
any of it
There should
back when
there
I
should
was a
be more.
teenager.
Yeah, there should be more isolated instrument voice videos for people who are trying to learn how to play different instruments,
Mm,
so that they can see uh, just exactly how the things fit together, like
I would sit.
like a jigsaw puzzle. And I've used this
Mm,
metaphor earlier today in talking about something else entirely to someone else entirely. But that's the thing about music. Every every instrument has its part, and it's sometimes in the foreground, and it's sometimes in the background, and it's sometimes in stillness, waiting for the next instance to step into the foreground.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I had my Pioneer stereo and I'd have the headsets on and I'm just playing 33 and a third record of whatever. Maybe it was Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who, or maybe it was a Beatles song or whatever. I'm trying to learn the bass on. And I literally have my headsets like this, where one ear is exposed,
Mm-hmm.
and to hear my bass playing on the studio amp that I would have, and in the other ear, I'm listening
To the
to
record.
record, trying to just with my ears isolated enough, and very hard to do. You could do certain things, but now that I've heard um, or watched the videos with the isolated bass of whatever song that he's doing, um, and I hear what he's actually doing, and it'll show. Well, like with Won't Get Fooled Again, I know there's one YouTube video where they do the isolated bass and they keep jumping to the clips in the video of him doing all the runs up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't think it was that involved.
Yes, yes, it was exactly that involved though. That's the thing. It When you listen to the entire mix, the whole band, you it's not that you don't notice it because you do. It's that with everything else, you're distracted from just the one instrument. But then when you hear the isolated, it's like, whoa, I didn't realize that was exactly what was going on.
Hmm.
And some of it is as active as a full orchestra, and some of it is, okay, you go take that part beat, and I'll wait. When it's my time, I'll come in. And then it's my time to come in. Shut up, Pete. Brum!
Yeah, because one of them would be playing on like the one and the three, and the other one's playing on the two and the four. Well, if
Mhm.
you had Entwistle playing on the one and the three, he's playing on the one and the three, and then right before the two starts, he's like playing on the one and the three and the three and a half or three and the three quarter,
Mhm.
filling in spots. He's filling holes,
Yeah,
and
he's not only playing on the downbeat, he's playing on the upbeat in some places
oh
as well. So you get the syncopation.
yeah,
And
so you got Townsend up here and Entwistle down there, and then Moon is trying to mesh it all together,
well,
and
yeah,
and
he's
and they did, and they they
yeah, yeah.
they truthfully did.
Yeah, Keith is keeping time for everybody.
Hmm. You think,
And
well, he was stoned out of his mind, and he was just playing whatever he felt like he was playing, and
yeah, but he
oh, he
never
sounded
he
like
never lost the beat.
you'd say, well, no, he's not playing like a jazz drummer or anything like that per se, but what he was doing in his own fashion was still, like you said, keeping the beat,
Yeah.
keeping
He
the tempo.
he might be playing 16 beats to the measure while everybody else is doing 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. So Keith is back there filling in all kind of stuff in the background, and still everybody else gets their cue from him, and still everybody else is on time.
And I know that some people that might be watching now or watching this on the rerun, um, they say, "What the hell are they been talking about?" or whatever. All I can
Mhm.
say is go to YouTube and cue up your favorite musician. But I just for the benefit of my explanation and Dan's explanation, cue up John Entwistle isolated bass on
Won't
Won't
get
Get
fooled
Fooled
again.
Again.
Hmm
That's probably the
That's
best
the
description.
biggest one. That's the biggest one. You get to see the entire music video, the entire
Mm,
band. You can see everybody playing their instruments, but John is the featured sound, and everybody else is mixed way back in volume, so that
yeah,
John's
and
bass stands out.
everybody knows the song. I mean, if you didn't know
Oh,
the
really? Yeah.
song from back in the 70s, you like kids today probably knew the song from the CSI
hmm
TV show where you see the
hmm
boat going across and you hear Daltrey screaming and that. And in case you forgot what Daltrey sounded like doing that patented scream and Won't Get Fooled Again, here it is right here.
No, that was not the
Oh,
Daltrey
maybe
scream.
not, but anyway. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, people know the song, so that's a good song.
hmm
Seriously, that's a good song to use to best understand what we've been rambling on about here for the last 10 minutes. But
And
it's very much worth it as musicians when in learning something. It's a great way. It's a great teaching tool.
and oddly enough, that song contains the most poignant comment on politics, as it has always been.
Hmm.
Today, yesterday, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. Here comes the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
nothing ever changes. It just gets remixed, basically, and that goes for not only music but politics and um,
Hmm.
cars and women's fashion and sometimes artwork. Uh, there are things that were old and outrageously new at that time, and people are still finding meaning in it and new ways to express it using those old methods. And there are philosophies that come around every once in a while, but it's the same stuff, just with a different voice trying to bring the message to a new audience. And then you go back and it's like if you don't study history, it's going to repeat itself. And if you do study history, you're sitting there watching everybody repeat themselves that did not study. Um, you know, now we're getting into philosophy. I should shut up now before we get it dinged for
Yeah. You were
political crap.
you were
Uh,
saying coming around again, and that put me in the mind of the Carly Simon song,
hmm
which I think was about totally something different. But
Hey,
um, no, I think now that I guess like since I'm 60 years old and that I need to relive my youth, and you're talking about old things being new again and all this other
hmm
stuff. Maybe I got an excellent credit score. Maybe I should go and buy that brand new Dodge Charger RT with the Hemi in it. And I
Nah,
don't know.
nah.
Now I need to buy more Beetle records. What the heck? I don't have time for that.
Hey. Save money for a fishing rod. Go take a vacation.
I don't fish
Go.
anymore, sadly. I
Oh, then
Well, I never ate the fish to begin with, and when I would go fishing, it was because
well,
my
you don't.
buddies would go, or
You,
I would. Last time I went, or last several times that I went, I went with my brother before he passed away, and
Mhm.
that's partly to do with why I
Yeah,
don't go anymore. But
I can understand. I can understand. I mean, I was
and
about to, I was about to say you don't have to take them home. You just turn them
right,
loose.
yeah, catch and release. I know, like
Yeah,
the
but
two guys
yeah,
that go
yeah.
fishing
I
for the
can
big
I can
monster carp.
I can well understand because I did most of my fishing with my dad, and he's gone now, so
Mm.
it doesn't have the same appeal as it used to. And no, I didn't. I wasn't always all that fond of catching something and then cooking it, but um,
My
yeah,
friends, they had it down to a science. Now I'm talking about when we were teenagers. We would go. I had some friends that lived in a little small town about 5 miles west of me, and we'd go down. About 3 miles south of that town was Salt Fork River, and it actually
hmm
runs just south of me as well. It goes quite a ways, and we would go down there a lot of times just fishing this time of the year at nighttime for bass or something. But uh, they would bring, because they did want to clean and cook it up and eat it right there. And I get it. Things
yeah,
being fixed outdoors taste a whole lot better. And
yeah. I
but I
mean,
mean, they brought their own can of cornmeal and everything else that you could ever think about, uh, preparing fish, and it was crazy. And but the one bad thing about all that is when you're cooking it all up and frying it over an open fire, you tend to draw a lot of critters around you.
hmm
And if it's after dark, I remember more than one occasion the campfire just getting enough light to go across the river just to barely illuminate the shore a little bit. But you would see all these little
little
eyes
eyes reflecting the light from the
on the other
campfire.
side. And like, oh yeah, there's all the coyotes. We brought them.
It's all right, Bill. Don't worry about it. Um, and one of the things about doing this is that you tend to talk so much that your throat dries out, and no matter how much water you drink, you still wind up with a dry throat, and that leads to your cough and everything is circular. Basically, what comes around goes around. Um, you're still muted, Bill.
I forgot I hit my cough button on my headset. No, I was going to say, thankfully, I have my Fire King Batman
hmm
coffee cup full of peppermints as well. But anyway, a
Uh,
lot of times water can't do it, and it's a matter of not clearing your throat, but coating your throat. And
yep,
uh, these, Laura got me onto the peppermint thing for that, and
yep.
yeah, sometimes they're good as cough drops.
Well, there are some cough drops that are really good, but
Mm,
they're really strong and they have a tendency to upset your stomach if you have too many of them too quickly.
mm,
I'm really fond of the ones with menthol in them, but
mm.
they will really upset me if I have more than two or three a day.
And
And
some of
that's
them are pretty darn expensive too.
well, it depends, but
I
you
think I bought some cherry halls last year, and I couldn't believe how much they went up in price since I had bought them last.
oh I got a thing of the Ricola from
Mm,
the store back when I went in looking for cough drops, and there wasn't nothing else but the expensive ones. And I go, okay. And I got to work and had one, and I go, now I know why these are expensive. They're really good and they work, but they're cough drops. Um, they
Now,
shouldn't cost as much as a steak.
I used to use Ricola probably back in the 80s, I think, when I first found out about them. Now, the best way that I could say what they tasted like, because I did have somebody ask me one time, I told him if you mixed licorice, kind of a licorice in a root beer barrel, and that
That's
was the best way I could describe it.
yeah.
It wasn't more one than the other, but
It
kind of a
depends on
blend.
which flavor you get. But yeah, I can understand that they are very very um, strong herbal flavors. And yeah, licorice is in there, and yeah, sassafras is in there too. Um,
Yeah, sassafras.
mhm.
And well, back then, that's when they only had one flavor. It was
Yeah,
just the black ones,
yeah.
and
Well, you can get the lemon lime ones and the whatever else nowadays, but you're stuck with whatever the store hasn't sold out of if you're
mhm.
in that particular emergency. I will be right back. Please just vamp for a few minutes and
And he meant it. When he'll be right back, he will. But yeah, I remember using those and those working. And I think in recent years, I tried them again, and they didn't work so well for me that time. However, I will have to say that at the time I had whooping cough, and this was not that many years ago, probably about 15 years ago. And for one, I never could imagine being an adult having whooping cough. That's a child's disease and that, but they said you can get it later on in life. And that, much like a lot of other things. And so that's why I try to always keep up on my shots for one, but I think that had more of the reason to do than um, the actual cough drop itself and that. But yeah, anything menthol, eucalyptus does clear you out. But I do like Dan brought up sassafras, and we have over on the other side of the Wabash there in October, Covered Bridge Festival in Park County, Indiana. And then in the last week of February and first week of March, they have what is called Maple Syrup Fair, where they have all the maple syrup camps and they make the maple syrup out of the sap water and that. Both of these festivals, you can usually readily find sassafras roots in little bundles. And making the tea from those roots is some of the best things in the world for coughs.
yes,
And
yes,
not only
yes.
besides sassafras roots being good for the tea in itself, um, I remember my mom had me do the Vicks thing of holding the towel over your head and having the steam come up from that, but having it coming up from the pot of boiling sassafras roots. And that
Hmm.
really kind of cleared me out just breathing it in, let alone drinking it. And that, but it was wonderful stuff and that. And now that I've talked about it, I need to get some of that this year.
You need a root beer right now.
Oh, well, some sassafras. Well, I guess the sassafras root beer version of that would be sarsaparilla.
Hmm.
Now the
Uh,
ginger beer I can't handle anymore because of the
yeah.
ulcers and that's a little bit too rich for me. But
Well, it's got a bite to it.
hmm
Yep, and that
it's spicy.
if you got any kind of stomach problem, the ginger will
Hmm.
really aggravate that a bit.
Yeah.
Um, Now, when I was a kid, Dad and I used to pretend to go hunting, and we'd go across the creek in the backyard and off into the woods. And there was one day we were going through there, and we could smell the sassafras for seemed like half a mile.
Mm.
And Dad finally tracked it down, and it just so happens we had I don't I don't think it was a machete. I think Dad just kind of dug in with his hands and a boot knife and got down to the roots, and we took back an armful of sassafras roots back to the house, and hosed it off outside, got all the dirt off of it, and then cleaned it up really well, brought it back in the house, and put it in a pot of boiling water on the stove, and we made sassafras tea,
Hmm.
and it was, I mean, the house smelled like heaven.
Hmm.
And then you got a chance to drink it, and you really did not want it to get cold. You wanted it hot.
Now, have
Which
you ever drank it cold, iced sassafras tea?
nope, sure haven't, but I would be willing to try
It's
because
actually very refreshing and it's very good. Um, where did I'm trying to think of the restaurant I had it in. They had it and they put some fruit in it, and this was middle of the summer, and it was really nice. And um, but I felt, I was, while I was vamping, I was talking to them about Covered Bridge Festival and Maple Syrup
mhm,
Fair over in
I could
Indiana.
I could still hear you. I just had the
I,
microphone turned off so you couldn't hear
right, I
me.
figured you had your headset still on, but I
Mhm.
was talking to them about the doing the having the maple syrup camps and that, and walking into one of those buildings where they had the big boilers boiling down the sap
The
water
maple
into
syrup.
syrup.
Oh, I bet that smells like heaven.
Oh, so wonderful. I First of all, because it is the last week of February, first week of March, and it's so cold out, it could be a foot of snow on the ground, or it could be 20 below zero, or it could be a balmy 45 degrees out. You never know at that time of year. And but because of the temperatures rising and falling all the time, that's what makes the sap water run in the trees. And
Yep.
so when they tap those trees, they know to do it at a certain time of the year. And some years they do quite well, and because the weather cooperates with them, and then some years
Some years the
not.
weather does not cooperate and you don't get quite as much, but
Yeah, yeah.
you get
It
you get quality rather than quantity.
well, yeah. It either stays too cold and doesn't run enough, and you get very little, or it does exactly the opposite and doesn't run for very long. Just because it's not going back and forth from warmth of the day to the cold of the night. But yeah, it's still really nice to go in one of these buildings, and it just it automatically feels like you have a warm maple flavored blanket wrapped around you as soon as you walk in there, where all the big boilers are.
Mhm.
And of course, then to get to take home some of that syrup and whatever else that they made from it. And that I remember one place, Smiley's maple syrup camp over by, well, it was east of Rockville, Indiana. I'm trying to think.
Mhm.
But anyway, one of their claims to fame, besides their syrup, was they made these little maple leaf shaped sugar candies that
Mhm.
was pure maple sugar
Yep.
from that. And I would buy one of these, and they were about big around as a silver dollar. You didn't want to try to just eat one because you're eating pure sugar, even though it's maple flavored. It's still pure sugar. But what's great to do is take a chunk of it and put it in your hot coffee
Mhm.
or even
Yep.
hot tea,
Yep.
and that's wonderful. And then there was another maple syrup camp down by Marshall, Indiana, that made well, besides having producing the syrup and that, and they did have sassafras roots there for sale, but they had this one-room schoolhouse, wooden clapboard sided one-room schoolhouse that they had moved over there, put a great big old cast iron potbelly stove in there, and then they also had a cast iron oven. And the oven, they would make these maple cookies, and they were like kind of a butter cookie or
Mhm.
sugar cookie, but it was maple flavored, and you could get them either with or without chocolate chips in it, which I just like just the plain ones. And having one of those hot off of that wood burning cast
Oh
iron
yeah.
stove pulled right
Fresh out
out,
of yeah, fresh out of the stove. Yeah.
and they take them out there and either put them on a napkin and you hold them in your hand and eat it, or you can buy a dozen and they'll put a dozen of them in a brown paper bag, and it just, yeah, but they never ever gave away the recipe for these cookies. Now, smartfully so, but um, we tried and tried to duplicate this recipe. You couldn't use maple syrup to do it. You couldn't use maple flavored extract with it. None of the ways that we tried came out tasting like their cookies. And it wasn't like there was any other ingredient that was super secret. It was just, we knew. And I'm like, did they boil it all the way down and just before it became maple syrup, take that and put it in the mix? Or how? I mean, for 40 years, I've been trying to figure this out. And for as long as I was going there, sadly, the one room school is no longer there. About 2 weeks before Maple Fair would have started about 15 years ago or more, they had a fire. They were doing some repairs in the schoolhouse. They had a some battery powered tools that they had some of the batteries left on a charger, NiCad batteries. Charger overheated
Caught
and it
fire.
caught a
Yep.
fire and everything burned. Um, but and then the original owners, Archie Foxworthy, and then Bev, I think was a sister or a daughter, I
Mm.
forget which.
Okay.
They had passed away, so couldn't get it from them anymore. The kids and grandkids were running it, and I'll still see them up on the square underneath one of the big tents during Covered Bridge Festival, but very rarely will you see them bring the cookies up there anymore. They supposedly still make them, but you'll see the syrup and sassafras roots and all that, which are equally important. But
Yeah.
I would wait all year for those cookies, and I would end up buying about 3 dozen of them, and I would have one of them, a dozen of them to enjoy then. For I would try to make it last as long as I could. I would
Yeah.
freeze the other 2 dozen to eat later on. And but it just now I fear that that's just going to become nothing but a memory from now on. I don't, unless I go this year, and if they're there, then that's wonderful. When I do see them, I always ask them, and I think the last time I asked them, they said, "Oh, we sold out, but we got more dough in the freezer. I can make more if you want to come back." Well, that's well over an hour away one way, so it's kind of.
Hmm. Yep. If you're not lucky enough to get there while they've still got some in stock, you're out of luck because it's too far to come back later. Yep.
And it's not like that's the only thing they're worth going there for. There's up on the square where the courthouse is, Rockville is the county seat,
Hmm.
and the Park County Courthouse is right in the middle of the square, and it's an old-fashioned square. And then they put these tents going all around the courthouse on all 4 sides, except for the south side of the square, and they leave that open. All the churches and the Boy Scouts and all the different people, they put on ham and bean dinners. Some of them do ice cream. Some of them, there's one that I go to that have corn fritters that are really, really good.
Oh yeah.
Um, One Catholic church has crullers, the twisted
Yep.
uh,
Donut like
yeast
things.
donuts with the powdered sugar on it. And
Hmm.
oh, that's something too to eat that hot. I
Oh
try to
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
There's a guy that has unpasteurized uh, homemade apple cider
Oh yeah.
that they have the press right there on the property, and they're making
Oh.
it. And that having a hot cup of apple cider with one of those crullers are out of this world. So, like I said, it's plenty of other good things to eat there. But
There's one thing you just put me in mind. There's one thing that I wish I could share with you today, but I can't. Um, Lindsay went out to our little volunteer peach tree. It's about 8 foot tall and about maybe 10 foot spread of branches. It's a little bitty thing, and it
mhm,
was loaded down with uh, silver dollar size peaches, and she picked about 40 or 50 of them and
mhm,
cut up quite a few. She made a peach crumble, which is
mhm,
basically a cobbler with a looser sort of
mhm,
crust, and she had a bowl full of that with French vanilla ice cream, and she gave me
mhm.
a bite from what she was eating, and I'm just going, "Oh, that's heavenly." She's still got about half of the peaches that she picked, and she goes, "That now there's 100 more on the tree. We've got to get them before the deer do, but they're not quite ripe yet." And I'm
Does
going,
she put up preserves?
"No, she doesn't. She doesn't.
I would say peaches are wonderful for putting up preserves or jellies or jams.
That is not a skill that she has developed yet.
Mm,
She might look into it later on, and probably get lots of pointers from my mom, who knows everything about that sort of thing.
yep.
But this was it was just bliss. I mean,
Mm,
I just had one little bit. I probably got some as a dessert for my lunch tomorrow at work, and then we got to finish it off here so that she can do another one with the peaches that are left before they get um, sitting on the counter too long. You know how that goes. They get extra.
yeah.
So we're hoping to do that, and then have to go and pick some more. She'll probably um, cut them up and freeze them for later on. The stuff
Mhm.
that's still on the tree right now, because there's no way we can eat all of that just
Well,
between the two of us. But
thinking for this time of year, now she could probably Google and find a pretty simple recipe for this, um, to make those peaches into like a peach iced tea or something, peach
Yeah,
flavored.
yeah, yep, yep. Although she, being British, she's not fond of iced tea. She's fond of hot tea.
Well, even
And
hot tea, peach flavored, sounds actually pretty good.
oh yeah, and she sometimes has a cough as well, and that would be really really good for it. But it's just one of those things. Oh, and we've got the muscadine vine is absolutely loaded, and I'm going. I really wish I could make some wine out of this, but it's going to wind up being um,
Mhm.
just well, not preserves because we're not saving any, but it'll wind up being um, muscadine preserves before it was put in a jar. I mean, you got to get it right then when it's fresh. But
It might wind up being critter food if you don't get to it early enough.
if we don't get to it early enough, the deer will. Believe
Hmm.
me.
Yep.
We came home from one Liberty Con in late June, early July, and there was a deer standing in the backyard, just standing there. And I walked out to try and get a photograph, and never did get the photograph. But deer
Mm.
stood there and stood there and stood there. I got up within about 6 feet of it, and then the deer staggered off into the woods, and
Hmm.
I'm going. The muscadimes have fermented on the vine. The deer is drunk.
Yep.
And I made sure I didn't make any threatening moves because I didn't want the deer to break its leg trying to run away from me or anything. Could be in
Now, see, about three
shocker.
miles south of me, I told you the Salt Fork River uh, uh, is just south of me, um, and it runs east and west. And but there's a vineyard down there called Sleepy Creek Vineyards, and
Hmm.
they make wine. And last weekend, while I was going to Catlin, uh, to this estate sale that Laura was working at, and um, you, I just the easiest way to get there, and Laura actually got off the Oakwood exit, went right down in front of my place, and went south, and then you get on there's tees into the Catlin Homer Road, which runs east and west. But right as soon as you cross the bridge going over there is that Sleepy Creek Vineyard, and beautiful vineyards, and they have them all kind of pruned up,
Hmm.
nothing drooping down on the ground or anything. Everything is very prim and proper. I don't see any nets or anything around it, and I know that is big time critter area,
Yep.
deer and everything. And
Mm.
the deer are tall enough that I think that they could get up there and kind of munch on that, whether it be the grapes or even the leaves and the vines. Even, you never know with deer.
Well, that's one of the things Lindsay's wanting to get the rest of the peaches out of the tree before the deer come up and tear the tree down trying to get to the peaches.
Right.
And Bill, I'm very sorry. I'm fading really fast. I am desperately afraid that Joe Dog is going to have to be called to
Yeah.
another episode where I nod off at the very tail end of the program. So I know we've only got like 15 minutes left, but I'm going to go
Well,
ahead and call time, and we'll get back together Saturday night, and
yeah.
and maybe tomorrow night in the green room, and and
If I can get in, the
well,
problem I had last
well,
week.
yeah,
And I hope they behaved while they were in there last week. But
yes, 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 they did. Yes, they did.
yeah,
And it
but
was it
I,
was it was it was okay. It was nothing unpleasant happened.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
yeah,
We had, well, two unpleasantries done to the same person, and I just was a little tired of it. And then when I couldn't get in the green room Friday, and when I found out the reason why, because it kept flashing on the screen so quickly, I didn't know, but then I saw the person's name flash on the screen. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, well,
yep.
I wouldn't know how to correct the situation if I wanted to, but I did not want to by any means. And
Yep.
if that happens again tomorrow night, then I'm sad not to be able to talk to Carl and Donna, but I don't know. But I will be going to the auction, and then Saturday morning I have to help her sister at the sales again. We're starting those back up and that. But yeah, I will be there for sure for Stupid O'Clock Saturday night. Unfortunately, not with Last Man Standing. That's why I try to always do it with you on Thursday.
Yep. And believe me, if I'm flying solo on Sunday morning, I'm just going to come on and say, "Look, folks, I can't just sit here and monologue for 2 hours."
Right. No, and nobody expects you to. I
Yeah,
mean,
and thanks for showing up. Sorry, but uh, Sunday morning comes early. I'll see you next
yeah,
Thursday. And I mean, when it happens, it happens. It doesn't happen all that regularly, but that's just life. Sometimes adjustments have to be made. But
right.
yep.
But I guess just to say to everybody about doing these shows or anything else, I mean, it it's a lot of compromise and a lot of constantly adjusting to situations
Mm-hmm.
and things that happen. It could be weather related or anything else,
Oh yeah.
and we might have some weather related stuff up here Saturday night, but
Hey, if the show had been scheduled for last night, power would have been off. I wouldn't
yeah.
have been here.
And right
So
now my tablet is down to 26%. So I was going to make this go as long as I could with it and that,
hey,
but I will definitely let you go so you can get the rest that you needed. And as far as everybody else, if I could leave them with one very important message, I guess that message would be this.
very philosophical. Yes,
And
indeed.
yes. And write that down in your books, people,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't forget it.
Yep.
But thank you for having me and
Oh,
on,
it's
well,
it's always
actually on both shows and that I
it's
always
always
enjoy
a
it.
pleasure. It's always a pleasure, and and thank everybody for watching. Whether you were with us through the whole show or whether you're going to watch us on the replay, like Carl, it's always fun. That's why we do this, and it's one of those things where uh, the plague is no longer the main reason we're doing this. It's the fellowship between everybody that comes in and we get a chance to talk with. It's like um, a, a family reunion that you
Mhm.
didn't get to go to in person, but somebody did a live stream. So there you go.
Yep.
And on that note, um, I'm going to tell you all a bedtime story, and then I'm going off to bed. So
Let me get my blanket. Okay, I'm ready.
thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
I can guess.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.